Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome to Card of the Day, where we talk about a card that I think deserves some talking about. And our card of the day today is a card I've been playing a ton of, Guidelight Matrix. This is the 2-mana artifact at common. When it enters, you draw a card. Has two abilities: 2-tap it, saddle a mount, or 2-tap it, wake up a vehicle, turn it into a creature. And this has been a card that I've been playing just a ton of in the past, I don't know, 10, 15 drafts I've done. I've been drafting a lot of blue decks, artifact-based decks, really kind of digging into those synergies, seeing how I can make these trinkety artifact decks work. So we're talking blue-black, white-blue, Esper, you can definitely be 3 colors. And I think that Guidelight Matrix just does a lot of things for these decks. I've looked at a lot of other people's blue-black decks this week, just, looking at deck techs in my Discord. And I think the number one thing that a good-looking blue-black deck, you've got the Terrors, you've got the Haunted Networks. The thing that those decks are often missing is enough trinkety artifacts. So Guidelight Matrix and Scrap Compactor, the Tortoise, like the 3-1 that makes a treasure. I think that people are undershooting a little bit on the number of cards you want to really make your Haunted Networks and Pactile Terrors awesome. And so if you've got these cards, you've got the Terrors, you've got the Haunts, I'm happy to play 2 or 3 Guidelight Matrixes, because just having a thing that sits there, draws you a card, make your Haunted Networks better, late in the game, triggers your Pactile Terror, often will draw into another artifact, really just helps grease the wheels, really make these 2 draining cards at their very best. And they're already very strong cards, but I think Guidelight Matrix is one of the cards that you can really use to maximize on them. Another grouping of cards I'm very happy to play a copy or 2 of Guidelight Matrix is when you've got the affinity cards. So there's 3 really good ones in the set: Memory Guardian, Demonic Junker, and Voyage Home. I think these are all really strong cards. And there's also Gear Seeker Serpent, which, is not the best card in the format by any means, but I think with Guidelight Matrix and a lot of these trinkety artifacts, makes this card a lot more playable. Like, if I can see this card coming down on turn 4, and a lot of times that happens, right? You just go Scrap Compactor into Matrix, into something else, play a Serpent on 4. Like, if this is consistently coming down on turn 4, I'm actually fairly happy to play it as a filler card in these blue decks. And for those who were not around for the original Affinity set, for OG Mirrodin, like, that's kind of what you did in that set. You just really want to draft like the 1 and 2 mana artifacts. There was like 0 mana artifacts, there was artifact lands, and just the more of those kind of cards, these trinket little things that just sit on the battlefield, the better these affinity for artifact cards get. And that might sound obvious, right? But I think a lot of people right now, again, looking at the decks that I've seen, are playing these affinity artifact cards with, I don't know, like 4 or 5 fewer artifacts than I would be happy with. I think to maximize on them and really make them good cards, you gotta be playing cards like Guidelight Matrix. And Matrix, by the way, I think is the best card for these, because you can kind of think of it like a mana dork that draws a card, right? If you have affinity for artifact cards. So far I've been talking about Matrix just as a cheap artifact that draws a card, and that's, a lot of good things come from that. But of course it has other abilities too. The ability to wake up a vehicle, I think, is a really, really important part of the card too. So I'll point out the really nice Splinter Twin combo, as I've been calling it, Guidelight Matrix plus Marshall's Path Cruiser. So you go on 2, play the Matrix, on 3, play the Path Cruiser. Now you've got this 6/5 that you can start bashing with, or start blocking with, whatever you see fit. If you start bashing with it early, it makes it so that your Pactile Terrors and your Haunted Networks have a real easy time of closing out the game, because you've already done the first 6 points. It makes it so that Hull Drifter is a more desirable card, because at this point of the game, you cast your Hull Drifter, you untap. I'm much happier being able to pay 2 mana to wake up my flyer, rather than having to tap a creature, because a lot of time you're spending mana playing non-creatures, right? Playing your Matrix, playing your vehicles, whatever. So by the time Hull Drifter comes down, you don't often have too big of a board. Maybe you'll have a creature or 2. But it's really nice to be able to go, well, actually, I turn my Hull Drifter, or I turn my Path Cruiser, or whatever vehicle it is, into an actual creature that I can help block with. Or attack, of course. Don't always think that you're super defensively minded with these artifact decks. Really nice with Thopter Fabricator, because, your Matrix draws you a card, so triggers the Fabricator, and then you can wake up the vehicle. I've also found that the mount mode doesn't come up very much, right? You don't really wake up mounts very much in these blue decks. But a rare that does come up with is Guardian Sunmare. This is a rare that, I've had a few times in these artifact decks. And Saddle 4 is a really, really big cost for these decks, especially where, again, you're not often flooding the battlefield with cheap creatures, but just being able to pay 2 to turn this on and go get a 3-drop has been pretty nice. Guidelight Matrix also makes Trade the Helm a lot better than it usually would be, because Trade the Helm, I think, is a card that you shouldn't play unless you've got just a ton of trinkety artifacts. Maybe you're making treasure, maybe you've got Grim Baubles, but you have to have, I don't know, I'd say a pile of 5, 6, 7 things that you're happy to trade off. And Matrix is just a great thing to trade off. I mean, sure, the opponent might have a vehicle once in a while, and you're like, okay, I'm giving them something that is real, but you've already drawn a card off of this, so it does kind of feel like full-on mind control. Just take their thing. If you've got Aether Siphon in your deck, which is a card that I often play in decks that want the Matrix, right? There's a lot of overlap with this card just being an artifact card. It's an extra draw trigger, so you can turbo mill them even quicker once you get to max speed. And then another niche card that Guidelight Matrix makes a bit better is Repurposing Bay. So this one is for sure a proceed with caution card. I wouldn't recommend playing Repurposing Bay unless you've got a deck with basically just all artifacts, and especially artifacts with good enter the battlefield effects, right? That's kind of the ideal with this card. You like play artifacts that give you value, and then you sack them to go get something else. And yeah, Matrix is a good card for that kind of thing. I've already seen a few decks from people that posted in my Discord where I'm like, wow, that actually is a good Repurposing Bay deck. Again, they've got like, 20 plus artifacts. They really went all in, but it's not a zero. It's a card that I think does have a home. And to show you an example deck, this is a deck that I trophied with yesterday, Mono Blue, of all things, funny enough. And this deck has, yeah, a lot of the things I just talked about. So it is playing triple Guidelight Matrix. It's got a Trade the Helm. It's got double Hull Drifter plus Path Cruiser, good vehicles to wake up. It's got double Aether Siphon, and a lot of games, as I got to the late part of the game, it was a race, and I just was able to race my opponent because I went Siphon, Matrix, draw into a Matrix, cast the Matrix. I've also got Pit Automaton, which is a 2-mana 0/4 that taps to add 2 colorless mana, but you can only spend that mana on abilities, so that's kind of nice with the Guidelight Matrix. Often what will happen is you go Pit Automaton into Matrix, and on a later turn you play a vehicle, a Hull Drifter, or Cruiser, and even if you're tapping out for those things, the Pit Automaton lets you activate the Matrix, which lets you block with the Path Cruiser. I actually got a few people that I'm sure just, aren't used to playing with this combination of cards. Looked like I was tapped out, right? But I had Automaton plus Matrix in the vehicle, and I got to eat a creature or two. So yeah, just kind of wanted to put you onto this card. I don't think it's like, oh man, this underdrafted common that nobody's taking, and if you just take it, you're going to win so much more. It's not that kind of card. It is a synergy card through and through, but I think a really good synergy card that often has a lot of places in a lot of decks and goes pretty late too, right? It's not a card that people value. It is very much a blue card. Like, I kind of draft it as a blue common, so if I'm drafting a bunch of blue cards and I see a Matrix 7th, 8th pick, I'm like, okay, it's another good, quote-unquote blue card. So yeah, I hope to draft more of these decks. I've been having a lot of fun with them. If you haven't quite gotten into these artifact decks yet, I'd recommend it. I think it's a good time to do it, since there are some tables where maybe 6 people go in being like, yep, I'm just going to draft green and force green. So if you're one of those tables, you can definitely make use of these blue cards, because often the green cards don't want the artifact cards. That's all for today's card of the day. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching and listening. If you made it this far, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.